boys, everyone. Welcome to episode 43 of the Racing Line podcast. A quieter week in racing, so we're going to start tonight by talking about some IndyCar that took over the streets of Toronto early this morning. And then we've got a few talking points from the fans that we thought we would discuss. So gents, Harry, Joe, how are we going, boys?
Good, mate.
Good weekend, mate.
It's good. I tried to change up the introduction a little bit because apparently we say the same thing every
Who said that?
episode. My wife.
Oh.
But then I was thinking, all the good podcasts have a very formulaic introduction. So in saying
Well,
that,
let's say welcome. So I'm not going to be part of this anymore.
Do you know why? Because that sounds like, the remember that show, The Big Blue House, when we were in primary school?
No.
Sounds like Bilbo Baggins from Lord of the Rings. That's how he welcomes Gandalf. If you want to get nerdy.
I don't know. That's too nerdy for me. But anyway, let's talk motorsport. And we're a bit lucky today in some regards because there was no Formula One, there was no MotoGP, and we had IndyCar pretty much by itself this weekend. So it gives us a little bit of chance to shine some light on it. We've been talking about it for the last couple of weeks, which is awesome. Just in, dribs and drabs. McLaren won the last race at Mid-Ohio, which obviously made it a little bit more relevant to an Australian audience. We had Tristan Ellery on. He was saying that he needed to get into it. So if you're watching Tristan, this is another great race that you've missed. But boys, what's his name? Scott Dixon, race win, first time in 2 years, I think it is, that he's won a race that wasn't the Indianapolis 500. Could have been even 3 years that he's won a race that wasn't the Indy 500. He's been there or thereabouts all season, but got the win today, followed closely by Colton Herta, who definitely need a points boost as well with where they're at. So what did you make of the race, and what were your talking points?
You can go, H.
Awesome Mini. I only had a chance to watch the Mini. But yeah, great race. I was surprised that Herta, the strategy kind of hurt him there. Allowed Dixon to get ahead. And then he just never looked like losing it. But the battles throughout the whole field is just what makes IndyCar such good racing. From 1st to 25th or whatever it is, there's battles everywhere, and I just love watching it. It's so good.
So if you haven't watched the race, jump on Stan, watch a Mini. It's on YouTube as well. I'm pretty sure the short highlights as well can be seen on YouTube. But street racing, bumpy tracks, a lot of different surfaces, concrete barriers, 35 cars that are all the same speed, and top quality driving. I mean, you spoke about it. You spoke about it already, but I think the key takeaways from this race that I kind of saw was this. Number one, the protagonists at the top of the championship all had not their greatest race. I mean, they finished at the bottom end of the top 10, but Will Power, Marcus Ericsson, Alex Palou all had to kind of struggle through the field a little bit to make something of their race. We saw Colton Herta, who was 130 points behind, need a big race, was able to get that, brings himself within 100 points in the championship, just past the halfway point, which is another really big talking point. But again, like you said, H, with the strategy call, left him out too long. Dixon came in, changed tyres, and something that's different in IndyCar to Formula One is the whole concept of no tyre warmers. So you jump into or you put those new tyres on, they're cold, and the advantage on that first lap was too big or too good that Dixon could get through. All of that being said, and it might seem a little bit frenetic, but the other thing that was super awesome to see was the overtaking. I mean, it's really interesting because the track in and of itself is pretty tight. There's a lot of good overtaking points in the track, but there's also a number of, following sections that would be similar to what you would see in some more modern Formula One tracks. And yet, even in that particular environment, these cars still put on a fantastic show. So, I mean, from my point of view, it's kind of like everything we want Formula One to be, and we love Formula One, and it's the reason why we have this podcast. Um, but when you watch something as rough and as untamed and as pure as IndyCar, gee, it kind of you kind of finish watching it and want a little bit more from the main game. So
I think that's
yeah,
a key word there, Anth. Untamed.
mm,
Like, I think that explains the difference between, the polished product that is Formula One
yeah,
and IndyCar, and I think it's all the better for it.
yeah. Well, you put up the story of Alex Rossi doing a qualifying lap around Toronto
Yeah.
on our socials on Thursday or Saturday, I think it was. How bumpy was it?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no power steering in these things. You are constantly battling with the car to keep it straight. It's very obvious when you watch the onboards, but also when just, watching the broadcast, that getting these cars around corners and not lighting it up on exit or on the exit of the corner, there's some skill in that. It doesn't look as effortless, as robotic, as metronomic as Formula One might be. And that's something that is awesome to see, because you can even, I don't know if you saw the incident between Rossi and Rosenquist. I mean, they've touched each other side by side at the right angle, and it's literally pushed the steering wheel out of the driver's hand. That it's that untamed, for use of a better word. So every time I'm watching these races, I mean, I'm a big fan of it already, but I'm falling more and more in love with the spectacle of IndyCar, and it's a kind of an untapped jewel in Australia. I mean, some pure motorsport fans will maybe be interested in it partly, but I think if you're interested in Formula One and open wheel racing, and you want to know what open wheel racing can be, because it's working, have a watch of IndyCar, because phenomenal.
I think the greatest thing
Joey.
about the category at the moment is that there's such a spread of drivers who can actually compete for the win. So like you watch a race and you'll never see the same drivers in the top 5 week in and week out, because there's at least 15, let's say 10 to 15 cars every weekend that can make a good push at it. I think this is
And you've
sort
got
of
at least
been accelerated.
you've got 4 or 5 teams that all have the infrastructure to win.
Yeah, that's
That,
right.
like,
So I'm saying, like, you have,
yeah,
if you're counting just like Andretti, Penske,
Ganassi,
say Ganassi, McLaren, Schmidt, Peterson, Rahal on their day. You know what I mean? Like that's
and Meyer Shank.
yeah, and Meyer Shank now as
You got
well.
about 20 cars.
That's 6 teams there. Yeah, that's at least 15 cars right there. And it's not one engine dominant. Like, you'll see Hondas and Chevys like littered throughout the top 10. So there's no real like the parity is really strong. And I'm not saying like other sports need that kind of parity, but even if you look at like supercars, you'll never have that many teams that close together, and it sort of runs off the same system as that, if you know what I'm saying.
It's pretty amazing that you have different engine manufacturers and they're so close. Like, you cannot tell the difference between the engines in IndyCar as much as you can in Formula One.
Yeah. Well, this is like,
They're much more monitored though.
Yeah.
it's much more spec. And you just said that you'll never see that in supercars. And just to segue for a
We
second,
will next year.
that's what the hope is with Gen 3, that it will be like that, because it's a lot more controlled, it's a lot more spec, there's a lot less bespoke nature to the cars and how they're produced. So that's hopefully what we're seeing in supercars moving forward. But my question that I was thinking about today, and I wanted to pose it to you, but I wanted to leave it unadulterated, so I haven't posted it on the chat yet, is this. Let me give you a bit of context first. Formula One has drivers that are dominating through every category that they are, for the most part, and then they get to Formula One. Now, if you're not in a good team, for example, let's say someone like Sergio Perez for most of his career before, let's say Nico Hulkenberg, dominant in everything he did, Formula 3, GP2, till he got to Formula One. Never really was in a position or a car to show any real, what's the word? Dominance. Talent. Great word. Yeah. That never was really in a position to show the talent that he had. Okay. Now, in Formula One, if you're in the top 2 teams, maybe the top 3 teams, you get the chance to show your talent. However, there's a number of drivers that can go through their whole careers, be dominant all the way up to that point and not win something. And Nico Hülkenberg was in Formula One for 10 years, went to Le Mans, won Le Mans on his first go. That was his first win in any category since he joined
GP2s.
Formula One.
He didn't even get a podium in Formula One.
Exactly. But then we look at something like IndyCar, and I was thinking Marcus Ericsson is in the lead of the championship. I don't expect him to stay there. However,
can I say by a decent amount now?
Yeah, I was going to say.
I think
it's
it's
like
20
points.
or 30 points.
It's like nearly 50. Nearly 50.
No.
Yeah, it's nearly 50.
I got it up right
I think
here.
it's 40 something.
35.
He's on 351 and Will Power's on 316.
Okay,
35.
so it's definitely substantial.
Yeah, but the point I was trying to make was, right, he was never in a car to show his potential, and he did make mistakes, and argument could be made that he wasn't even the strongest driver in his team. But he still was a good driver, and we never really got to see it. And he was kind of a laughing stock by the time he left Formula One. The same thing can be said for someone like Pastor Maldonado, who even though in Formula One kind of was a one-hit wonder, is in LMP2 now, gun driver. People like John Eric Verne, the list goes on and on and on. In IndyCar now, we're at a situation where, like you said, Joe, there's 15 to 20 drivers, okay, that are at the top of their game. You've got great drivers from America. You've got great drivers that have been in Europe and come over to America, and you've got great young talent that never really got the chance to drive in Formula One. People like Palou, whose trajectory was moving in that particular direction for the longest time and never really got the shot.
I'd like to discuss him, by the way.
Yeah, and we're in a situation now where there's so much talent in IndyCar. Do you think, objectively, that between IndyCar and Formula One, taking stature out of it, IndyCar is the more difficult championship to win? Number one, because there's less races, and number two, close. Because the talent is higher.
I'm with you.
Not even close.
But tell me why.
The difference between here's the long and short of it. The difference between Formula One and IndyCar is, number one, the point system is so unforgiving in Formula One. Like, you need to be at the pointy end every weekend to mount a championship, number one. Whereas IndyCar, it's much more like a supercar spread. So you sort of get points for participating kind of thing. The fact that good drivers come into Formula One and then do well in other championships shouldn't surprise anyone, because realistically, they're the best 22 drivers or 20 drivers in the world at any given time, or they should be. And if Stroll and Latifi were to leave F1 now and go into IndyCar WEC, whatever you choose, other than maybe supercars, because it's so different, and perform admirably, like, no one would be surprised. But we're rating these drivers against the Alonsos, the Hamiltons, the Vettels. Like, that's the best of the best. And if you have half a bad year or a bad year, like someone like Danny Ricciardo, who's won 8 F1 races, we then start doubting these drivers, and that's because the sport itself is so ruthless.
My question was,
I guess from my perspective,
sorry, H.
I guess in Formula One, there's maybe 2 cars on any given year that you can win the championship. If you're not in those 2, it doesn't matter how good you are, you're not going to win the championship. We've just said IndyCar, there's 15 cars you could be in to mount a championship challenge.
That's why I'm looking at it, though.
Yeah, but it's easier. It's got to be easier to win IndyCar.
Yeah, no, sorry. Let me rephrase that then. What I mean to say is this: if you are a top driver in a top car in Formula One, or a top driver in a top car in IndyCar, is it easier? For example, if I'm Verstappen, I'm racing probably 5 people max for this championship.
Haha, I like what you did there.
4. Not even 5.
Let's say 4 then. Okay, 4. Now, if I win 4 races, I've essentially covered off a race win between first and second in the points. Yeah. I've also got a season that is so long now that even if I have 2 blown up engines in the first couple of rounds, I can be back in the lead comfortably by a third of the way through the season.
Yeah, but also you got to remember as well, on your worst day, if you have a problem, realistically, you should be able to race your way back to fourth.
But that's the point I'm trying to make to you, Joe.
So as long as you
The
don't
point
have
I'm
an
trying to
engine
make is
blow up,
this:
you should
in
be fine.
IndyCar, if I'm a top driver, let's say someone like Newgarden, for example, and I've got 15 other people that have a somewhat realistic chance at mounting a push for the championship, and I have an off day. Yes, you can say that the points are more forgiving if you're lower down the grid. However, at the same time, it does mean that in order to mount a championship push, a greater level of consistency is required because there's less prominence between
that's
winning a race
different
and
argument to what
coming
you said,
second.
though.
So that's the point. The point I'm trying to make is if I'm in a car that has the chance to win either championship, which is going to be harder?
Yeah, I think Indy.
Yeah,
That question
at this point in time, it's Indy because you got to remember as well. In Indy, you have to be good at normal normal circuit racing, and then you also see these drivers who come in from other championships who have never raced on ovals before have to learn learn the technique of running on ovals, and then you have to come and race on some of the bumpiest street circuits you'll ever see. But I think how you phrase that question initially wasn't fair on F1 drivers.
I agree. That was the point I was trying to make, because I was watching it. I'm thinking, even at this point in the season, yes, there's 100 points between first and 10th, but we're halfway through the season.
Yeah, and it all can change in the blink of an eye.
Exactly, it can all change really quickly with a few ordinary races here and there, or a DNF or two, because the spread is so large. If you were to have a DNF,
here's what I love as well about IndyCar: you have a championship that's based in the US. That's fine. But then you look at the top drivers in it at the moment. You have Scott Dixon, who's been sort of the staple for the sport, New Zealander. Will Power has probably
Australian,
been
it's an international
for
lineup,
most of his time. Australian, Palou now, Spanish. You've had Castro Neves and the other guy from Canan from Brazil. You've got Newgarden and Herder from the US. You've got Ericsson from Sweden. You know, it's a very
Pagenaud and Grosjean
from France. You know, so it is the best. It's the best of the rest from everywhere else coming into this championship. You know what I mean?
And also what you
Scott
see,
McLaughlin now from Supercars.
Yeah.
You know, he's dicing it up with the best.
Yeah.
It's all like it is awesome fun. It's like go-karts on steroids. Realistically, that's what it is. It's go-karts on steroids. Like you even see Will Power now doing. He was bombing these. He was dive bombing some from so far back.
Stupid moves, stupidly lucky and fortuitous in some.
Yeah, but you know that's what you got to do sometimes when you're that far at the back. And
even
him, he won last race. He came 15th today.
Yeah,
you know,
that's the point I'm trying to make. Is like it's actually difficult to win
entertaining sport
championship in that regard. But yeah, if you haven't watched it, guys, jump on board to IndyCar. You're not going to be able to watch it live for the most part because it's either races between 3 and 5 o'clock in the morning.
Racing at stupider times than F1.
But get yourself Stan Sport, watch the races. It is so bloody good. So good.
Can I pose a question? What the hell is going on with the Palou contract situation? Has there been any clarity on that over the weekend?
I've got a hypothesis.
Let's go.
Let's hear it.
Which is this.
Oh, no.
I
bet it involves Danny Rick.
I think no. I think that McLaren is in a position now where they want to move to 3 cars, just to be a little bit more competitive with the likes of Andretti and Penske in particular, and Ganassi's doing it with 3 as well.
But they've got 4 drivers signed for
this is the thing. Felix Rosenqvist's contract is not with Arrow Smith Peterson; it's with McLaren Technology. So there
Formula E
consideration that he's going back to Formula E, where he was carving up before he went to IndyCar, which will be a loss for IndyCar because even this year he should be in a championship fight. He's had a lot of.
Why would they get rid of him?
Well, this is why, because Alexander Rossi is already going. Alexander Rossi is already going, and this is what I think. Alex Rossi's there, Pato O'Ward's there. The fact that there was the option for Ganassi to snatch up Palou for the 3rd year in a row would mean that McLaren wasn't sure they were going to be able to get him. Hence why they've signed Rosenqvist to an open contract with either with either racing series, if that makes sense. And then I don't know if Palou thought he could get out of the third year, or he made it seem like there was more confidence that he could move out in the negotiations than there was. But I think it's fairly realistic that he will be staying with Ganassi, and that Rosenkuss would be in the third.
Can I give you my theory? Because I have a different theory to that. I think that Palou is in line to take Danny Rick's seat at the end of next year. As we know, Danny Rick's going to be there next year because...
At McLaren F1 team?
Yeah.
You think he's going to McLaren F1?
Palou, yeah. I think after next year, he will be the McLaren F1 driver after Danny Rick leaves, right? Here's how I think it's going to work. I think Danny Rick is going to be there next year. And after all Zach Brown said, it makes total sense that the option was in Danny Rick's favor because they needed to actually get him there. That makes total sense. Thinking that they're going to push him out the door, I think has sort of made this whole fiasco seem worse than it is. But I think in terms of they'll put Palou in Formula E next year as he's closer to Europe. He'll be the McLaren test driver, do a few test runs next year, get him comfortable with the team, do some simulator work. And then once Danny Rick is gone, Palou is going to be your second driver at McLaren F1.
That's a hot take. That is a hot take.
I think that's a great take.
There is no way Palou is not racing.
I think it fits perfectly.
There's no way he's going from IndyCar to Formula E.
What are you talking about? We've just seen Oscar Piastri sit a year out. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but he didn't go from Indy.
He didn't go from IndyCar being a championship contender.
He'll finish the year in Indy. He'll probably win the season again. He'll go to Formula E, do some Formula E, do some F1 because he has to do F1 testing. He has to do some simulator work.
Yeah, but we've just seen this week that Colton Herta can race IndyCar and test within a week.
Yeah, this is my take. This is what I think. So I think they want him to be in Europe.
It's hot.
He can't be located. He can't be. But Herta's not doing testing and simulator work. They want him to be part of the reserve driver for the team. You have to be based in Europe for that. Flyaways is one thing, but being based in the US is a different take. And I think from the look on your face, you think I might be onto something.
I can see you thinking. I just don't think it'll happen.
I can see him going to McLaren and racing a year in IndyCar for them. But I can't see him racing Formula E and then going to Formula One.
Well, what was his junior Formula career like?
Maybe he'll do IndyCar and Rosenquist will do what will do
That's
Formula
what I just
E.
said.
But I think he'll definitely be taking Danny Rick's spot at the end of next year.
I don't know. Depends.
Dude, he's a young superstar.
Yeah, but if you had someone like Gasly or someone like Palou, I think they would take Gasly.
No way.
But Gasly is not that young anymore.
And he's not performing that well.
But Palou's not that young anymore either. Palou's 24, 25.
Yeah, how old is Gasly? 27.
24, 25.
I think they're keeping Gasly because he's going to take Checo's seat no matter what. Checo is the one who's aging out now. Like, why would Red Bull
You know what the beauty
give
about
him
this
up?
whole conversation is? We will know soon enough.
Why would they keep so many drivers on the books if they didn't have contingency plans for them?
Well, there's a few reasons. Number one, because their IndyCar team is growing.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
I can see them taking Palou, having Palou, Rossi, and O'Ward.
That's a strong lineup.
And having Rosenquist in their McLaren. Yeah.
I have a bigger question about McLaren.
Yeah.
Do you think that their F1 team is suffering because they're doing too much other shit?
No.
I do.
But
you can't be fully focused.
All the other racing that they're doing isn't R&D racing though. IndyCar for them, IndyCar at this stage is still McLaren in name because they bought the infrastructure of SMP.
IndyCar is different because they're actually still, SMP is still pretty much running the team and then McLaren funding. But now they're doing.
Who did McLaren buy in Formula E?
I don't think they bought anyone. I think they make their own.
Merck?
McLaren bought out Mercedes.
Yeah.
Did
So
they?
they're going to get all the infrastructure from them and continue running that team under the brand McLaren, but it's technically a team that already exists. Now, Extreme E, we can debate its relevance, or we can even debate how much manpower is going into that fat of a series. Regardless of that, though,
tell us what you really think.
I don't know, man. I'm not a fan of that.
I just don't think that if as a team, it looks good if you want to be a powerhouse of Formula One again, right? And next year we're going to have 3 F1 races in the United States that are going to get more coverage and more fans' eyes than a whole season of IndyCar, right? And if you're not putting your best foot forward in your biggest sort of, what is it, the biggest bow, the biggest arrow in your quiver, and you're looking subpar, like surely that is not what they want to be doing, like to be better at IndyCar or better at Formula E that no one watches.
2 years ago, you might have had an argument. The problem is now there's cost cap as well. So there's only a certain amount of money you can spend on R&D. There's only a certain amount of money you can spend on
I just don't think it's a good look for a team that's struggling
regardless of the look,
like they are.
Okay, well then let's look at it from the other point of view. Maybe they're trying to make money still, because what we saw from McLaren even 2 years ago when COVID took place was that as big a team as McLaren, as good a financial situation as they were in, they were still in a situation where they had to get bought out. 40% of their shares had to get bought out so they wouldn't become insolvent. So with all of that, maybe they're saying we need to be able to generate revenue from other forms as well. Looking at IndyCar, looking at Formula E, there's a specific amount of money that they
get
know
for being in there.
Yeah, there's money that they're going to for being in it.
From it.
No, but let's say that they know, okay, it's going to cost us. I have no idea of the financials, but let's say it's going to cost us $5 million to run Formula E this season. Okay, they can budget for $5 million, and if they've got sponsorship that can cover that and more, well, then they're bringing in money as well.
Just saying, that's all by the by. How do 2 teams announce the one driver on the same day? That's what I want to know.
I think one of them
it's hilarious.
They both thought they had it, and then one of them
jumped
not jumped the gun. They thought they had him. They posted it, and the other team's like, "Hang on a second, we've got him." And they it's a cock up.
What I
in
think,
the true sense of the word.
I think what's happened is that Chip Ganassi Palou has made it known to Chip Ganassi that he wants to leave, and there's contracts on the table, and Chip Ganassi have thought, we've got in our contract, you staying with like a clause in our favor saying you will be here, like we can trigger you to be here next year, kind of thing. Sort of like a franchise tag in NFL, I suppose, like how that works. You got no say in it, and whether or not it is like how it's worded has been either made known to Alex that's how it goes, or I can't see Ganassi releasing a statement like that if they haven't got the legal grounds to sort of stand on it, because McLaren wouldn't know the contract that Ganassi has with Palou, you know what I mean? Like, so I don't know, like they could definitely release the news under sort of what they know of the situation with Alex himself. But I don't know how Ganassi could release a statement without sort of the legal grounds to stand on it. So it was really humorous, to be honest.
It's a cluster. That's
yeah,
what
really,
it is.
it's pretty. Yeah,
it wouldn't happen in Formula One.
No way.
Stranger things. Have you watched the Schumacher documentary?
Yeah.
That's the whole.
I've never seen this happen in any sport.
Oh, from
Jordan to Benetton.
Benetton, yeah, that's right. Yeah, but that's in the 90s.
Oh well.
Yeah.
Something's going on. It'll come out in the wash soon enough.
Yeah, it will. Yeah.
Let's move on. Enough chat about IndyCar. H, what were some of our other talking points for this week?
So I put out a thing on our Instagram story. If anyone had any questions they'd like us to debate or talk about. So first up we had Tristan Ellery, who was on the pod a couple of weeks ago. He asked, who do we think are the top 10 drivers out of Australia and New Zealand right now? And are there any up-and-comers to watch out for? So,
well, can I throw up my list? Would that be all right?
Yeah, look, I'll preface this by, I looked at both your lists that you sent through, and I think there was one that I could see that maybe it could be added, but otherwise there wasn't.
Who was the one?
I was looking at Alex Palou, who was in Indy Lights last year, and he's racing in, I think, one of the
he's
endurance.
racing in SF 2000, and he's racing in ELMS.
Yeah, so
or WEC.
He was in Formula 3 a couple of years ago, had that massive accident.
Yep. I didn't think about Peroni.
Yeah, but otherwise, you guys had the others covered, so Anth.
Well, I'll throw you my 10. and then we'll see what Joseph thinks about it. So I started with Cam Waters. I went Cam Waters.
Are these
Chaz
in order,
Moss-
by the way?
Yeah. Yep.
So you think Cam Waters is the best Australian driver right now
In the world?
in the world?
Yep.
Oofed.
In the world.
Jesus.
I'll give you my
Cam
10,
Waters
and then
is
you
the
can
best Aussie racer in the world.
let me give you my 10, and
That's
then we can go
insane.
from
That's
there.
Biased.
Just listen. No.
What's
I'll
your
give you-
favourite team in supercars?
Tickford.
Yeah, I know.
Do you know,
That's,
do you know what, though? Cam Waters hasn't even raced another car other than a
can you
speedway
just-
car
can you
let him
in
in
say
his
it.
whole
Let him-
career.
let him go.
Can you
let
let
him
me
go.
finish? So I've got Cam Waters, number 1, Chaz Mostert, Will Power, Daniel Ricciardo, Matt Campbell, Anton Di Pasquale, Oscar Piastri, James Allen, Jackson Evans, Jordan Love.
Yours are only Aussies except Jackson Evans.
Oh, he's a Kiwi as well, isn't he?
Yeah.
We'll get rid of Jackson Evans.
What
and
about
we'll put,
Scotty McLaughlin?
he's Kiwi too. We'll put
Yeah, we're counting Kiwis.
He asked for Kiwis.
oh, Kiwis as well. Oh,
Australia /
So-
New Zealand.
gotcha. Well, let's
So
get
you're
rid
allowed
of.
to put Shane Van Gisbergen in there.
Yeah.
Oh, no, let's
and
make this
Scott
Australian
Dixon.
then. Let's
Okay.
make this Australian. Get rid of Jackson Evans, and I'm gonna throw Peroni to number 10. But like, this is the thing about Cam Waters, right? He's been in like a fickle car his whole career. Realistically, if I knew that it was Australia, New Zealand, like I should have, I would have put Shane above him. But he came second last year. He has kind of pulled his way back into third this year. He's making his way up. It hasn't been as easy, but I still think by the end of this season he'll be back in second.
So,
And
I have a question.
yeah,
You're saying in equal machinery that Cam Waters would beat Oscar and DR.
In F1.
if they're in an F1 car, that's not equal machinery. They have to be in a car that they've all they're all equal in. Put him in shifter karts, I think he would win.
All right, I'm gonna debunk this because I think this is so far fetched. It's not even
blasphemous.
funny. All right, so he's
Well, what has
he's-
DR done in the recent
no,
past
he's
to
how-
warrant that
he's-
he's still at the top of his game?
Here's how I would like to measure them. Right,
All right.
I don't think
Yeah. Sorry, my metric was eye test.
your personal belief.
Tickford bias.
the
my
eye test
love,
metric.
my love for Cam Waters, which has blinded me since he was in Super 2, is carrying your decision. All right, so I think number one, we must preface this by saying, if a driver hasn't driven more than one category and we haven't been able to measure him against the best of other categories, I think you can't put him at number one. All right.
He made a top 10 shootout in his only outing in the Bathurst 12 hour with Stracker Mercedes.
With
He
you,
did.
I
Ant.
think he qualified
He did.
fourth.
He did, I suppose.
Oh.
That's a decent effort. All right. So you're telling
One
me
off.
he's better than Matt Campbell,
I would
who's
think
just
that
been
he's-
announced as a Porsche WEC
Listen,
driver.
you can't talk shit. Like, I'm never going to talk shit about Matt Campbell because
No,
I
no.
love Porsche.
Let
I
me
love
talk
Campbell.
now. Let
but
me
he's
talk.
only ever
Let me
driven
talk.
Porsches. So that's the
Let me
same
talk.
argument you're making
No,
about.
he hasn't. He's driven in supercars.
Well, the only time he drove in supercars, he kept putting it into Hell's Corner and having to do Uis out of it.
In his first race. And
Go,
he's
Joe.
been
Give us
relatively-
your
list.
He's been,
Joe,
he's
give us
been
your list.
relatively competitive in the Grove cars.
Let's go,
But
Joe.
that's
Give us
Porsche.
your list.
Yeah, sorry,
So,
Joe.
so here's how I'm going to say it. If you want to, I like Matt Campbell as one of our, not probably the best, but I think we've seen a lot of him in a lot of different categories. We've seen him competitive as a young'un in Porsche Cup, which then prompted him to go to Europe. We've then seen him excel in Porsche Cup Europe, which is the best of the best of Europe. We've then seen him work. We've then seen him work through a junior Porsche contract in GT3 cars, which is
And in
another hard
GTE,
thing.
racing
we've
in
seen
M,
him
Pro
move
M.
GTE cars as one of the best. We've now seen him move into a group of drivers with him, Jaminet
Yamanet.
and NASA in
IMSA.
IMSA and in WEC. So he's not with them in WEC. We've seen him perform in WEC at the same time as performing in IMSA and GT3 machinery. And now we've seen Porsche have enough faith in him to put him into its top flight hypercar program. Now there is at least 15 world-class drivers in that Porsche stable that they could have chosen from for this job, at least, if not more, right? So I'm not saying he's the best Australian out there, but I definitely think he has to be in the top 5 because at every level of his progression, he has not just performed, but he's excelled. All right.
Joseph.
Number 2.
Joseph, what position did I put him in?
You didn't tell us. You only spoke about Cam Waters.
5th.
Did you have Jack Doohan? Did you have Jack Doohan in your list?
No, I don't have Jack Doohan in there.
Oh.
Jack Doohan's won one F2 race.
Number 2, I have Oscar. I think winning F2 is a massive achievement. We haven't had an F2. Have we had an F2 winner? Did Danny Rick win F2?
No.
I think he skipped F2.
Did Mark Webber win F2 or the equivalent?
No.
That's massive, man.
Yeah, but
and he won it in his first season after winning F3 in his first season.
He won it with Pramer.
Who cares? He won it in his first season. No one, only George has done that recently, and Charles have done back to backs.
I want to see Piastri race against men before I make that determination.
Okay. I think from what we've seen in the past, if a driver can do that, they've ended up pretty good. All right. And then I have willpower, because I think the work he's done in IndyCar against some really good competition. I mean, other than if Scott Dixon didn't exist, he would be the best. Well, he's the best qualifier in IndyCar history, and he's got enough wins to put him in the, at the top of, near the top of the mountain for IndyCar wins as well. Danny Rick, I think he can't minus his 8 F1 wins, and yeah, he's on a bit of a downturn at the moment, but come on. And then I think
Danny Rick I put in 4th, FYI.
And then I think you can
put in 3rd.
Mostert and Waters.
I think just the shock value of you having Cam Waters at number 1 threw us, mate.
I think that he's
going us for a loop.
I think that he hasn't had, I feel like if he was in, if he was in a Triple Eight, I think you'd be dominating.
When you sent your list through, I thought, he's just throwing numbers together. He's just throwing names together. I didn't think they were in order.
No, that's my order.
Fair enough.
This is what I want to do. I want to post both of these lists on the socials, and I want to get a vote happening.
All right,
but mine wasn't in order.
Well, then put it in order.
Send it through to me, Joe, and I'll put it.
Put it in order, and we'll post it up. And I want you to tag as many drivers and people and anything to get some traction for this. And I want to see what the feedback from the population is saying about my list, because I don't actually think it's I'm not going to lie, I knew that people would think it's biased, and I tried to be purposely
Dude, it is biased.
Unbiased.
People don't think it's biased. It is biased.
Is that why Chaz is second?
I think Chaz is a great driver.
I'm not saying he's not. I think he is too. But I think you've put Chaz second just to soften the blow of Cam in first.
This is what I thought. This is what I honestly thought. No, because I was actually thinking about putting Chaz first. I would put Chaz ahead of Cam. Yeah, but this is the thing. The difference between Chaz and Cam is this. They both have the ability to make a car that isn't performing well get a result. However,
Chaz makes more mistakes.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
But the way Chaz threw that car around last week in that quali session, the top 10 shootout was awesome.
The thing is, though, Chaz has got
slow.
I just don't think the car had it.
Chaz has got such a, and I'm a massive Chaz fan, and I've always been a Chaz fan. But Chaz has got such a list of boneheaded overtakes that end up in carnage, like even in GTs, like at that Bathurst one, when he lit it up on the grass and wiped out a Bentley. So, I mean, I'd probably do, if I was in that situation, I'd probably do the same thing, because you're not going to lift. But yeah, I can understand why you put Chaz ahead of him. But see,
look, this is my test. My test is if you had those drivers, I understand that. But if you had those 10 drivers in shifter cuts and they did,
we'll never know.
We would never know.
But all very good.
But then if I was to think about it like that, that's kind of where I based my thing on. Anton De Pasquale is good, but he's in a great team, and he's underperforming probably in a great team. I think Matt Campbell's awesome in a Porsche, but we haven't seen him in anything else really ever.
We've seen him in so many different Porsches.
But they're all Porsches.
But he's always been good in them.
I think Ricciardo's good, but he's kind of lost a bit of his edge, hence why I put him in fourth. Willpower is old, but he's still got edge, so I put him in third. And then Piastri, I probably could have put higher, but I just want to see him race against some men. James Allen, I've put in eighth, and he's just an Australian that we don't know about because he's been racing in Europe in prototypes, LMP2 for the longest time, but he's a gun in LMP2. He's young, he's a gun. He's always
even drivers that I didn't put in there that I think still do such a great job when they're out in the international. I'm like, even guys like Nick Foster, like when we saw him in Asian Le Mans.
10.
No, I'm not putting him in the 10. But like if you want to talk about like drivers who put their best foot forward against, drivers who we assume are in a sort of elite club, then you can sort of bring like, okay, whenever Nick Foster's jumped into a GT car or even an LMP2 when he was in Asian Le Mans with the Inter Europol team, I think it was.
Yeah.
Like even against the best that class had to offer, which are guys from Europe, he was still in the best car and performing at such a super high level with Shane van Gisbergen. So I mean, I think on any given day, if you put any of these drivers in the right machinery and the better team, they're all at a level that they probably will perform really well.
That's why I had to base it on the
I don't think
and the
I've seen enough from
analogy.
Cam to put it at the front, to put him at the top. Because we haven't seen him in enough other categories. We've seen all the other guys do a few different things and be at a high level. But Cam has
who
just
was the
been
10th driver
supercars.
that I said we were going to put in?
Peroni.
Peroni.
Oh, that's right. Oh, is it Peroni or Doohan? I'm going to go Doohan over Peroni. All right. H, you can post that up, see what the world thinks.
Love it.
That was a good chat. What was our the other thing that we were supposed to, what was the other thing we're talking about
Tracks.
tonight?
Yep, so
Tracks.
we also got another question, which was our tracks listed from 1 to 22. I feel this is going to be another, I guess, from our favourite track on the F1 calendar through to our least favourite. I'm pretty sure we're consistent across the board for our least favourite, but it'll be interesting.
Before we go into that, can I just say, I think I figured out how we can do this. We will each present our top 2 and least 2 favourite tracks so that we have a bit of discussion about that. And then what we'll do is we will, for each ranking of the track, for example, we will each give it a point. So if it's the first track on your list, you'll give it 1 point. So then by the end of our tally, we will have a list of 22 tracks. The track with the least amount of points is obviously the best, all the way through to the most points is the worst, because it means it's been ranked low for the majority of times. Then we can post that track list or that hierarchy that you wanted based off of that. So, H, what are your least 2 favorite tracks on the F1 calendar?
I would like to say quickly, I think the least 2, we might get a consensus.
Yes, I had at 22, I had Miami. And at 21, I had Jeddah.
I'm going to say
Joey?
At 22, I had Jeddah. And at 21, I had Miami. Because I like that I could actually see the peripherals of the track at Miami. I like that we could actually see. I like the look of the track.
I've raced the boys. It's shit.
Yeah, but at least we can see the fake beach and the fake marina when we're watching the track.
Yeah.
Like,
true. They do get extra points for the fake water. I'll give you that.
Yeah, fake
at least
water.
It's somewhat like a circuit, I feel.
The police.
We go on Jeddah 22,
no.
Miami 21.
You might as well literally for Saudi Arabia, you could literally race down a freeway, put a U-turn on the end, race back, and put a U-turn on the end, and that would be...
No, if you did that with a few witches cones making some squiggles in the freeway, because it's like 4 lanes, just crossing, cutting back and forth a bit, that's all. So
you're
it really
saying
is.
If you put witches hats on an airstrip, like Top Gear do, you could have the Jeddah street circuit.
We could have the Jeddah street circuit on Top Gear's racetrack at night. Boom.
I like it.
All right, okay. Top 2, boys. Anth, top 2.
Well, number 1, it's probably a little bit biased, but I think it's the greatest track in the world.
That's right on form.
I think it's got the, I'm just going to say it, Suzuka.
Suzuka, 1 point for Anth.
A circuit. High
Joey.
speed. low speed.
Can I have a hot
hairpins.
take here? Hot take for the podcast.
You
The
don't like
greatest
Suzuka?
driver on the greatest track would be Cam Waters winning a race at
Suzuka.
Suzuka.
In a shifter car.
That's all we need.
All right, Joey, your favorite track?
I think the best track
Yep.
is Silverstone
Yep.
for racing, like
Yep.
in F1, 100%. And I
Alright.
think last week can prove that. I think number 2 is Spa.
Well, my top 2 were Silverstone at 1,
Yeah.
Spa at 2.
I will say this though, Suzuka is number 3 for me, so I don't think Anf was far off.
Suzuka's number 3 for me too. So
Is
let's
it?
go.
Okay, so we've
Let
got
me
a
throw you one more.
consensus.
Let me throw you one more curveball, boys.
What?
What is your 11th favorite track?
Just saying,
Spill-
I'm putting Silverstone as number 1 because Joey and I put that as number 1. Spa. Ant, where'd you have Spa?
Second.
Yep, so that's second. And then third, we could debate. My 11th track.
Yeah, give us your third then. That's good. Give us your
My third was Suzuka.
Oh.
We've got a consensus at the top and a consensus at the bottom.
Can I ask you a question? Where did you boys rank Interlagos?
Joey?
15th.
Oofed.
15th for Interlagos.
Yeah.
You're off your
Serious?
head. That's a Cam Waters take right
That's
there.
because you have never got that far into an F1 season to race it.
No, it's not. I don't hate the track, but I think other tracks are better conducive for racing.
Interlagos.
And you know what?
What a circuit.
I do have favorites. Like I do enjoy other like racing different tracks. Like my 11th track was Spielberg.
I
My
had
bang
4th
average.
track was Imola.
I had Interlagos at 5th.
Yeah, Interlagos is good. My number 11, funnily enough, was Melbourne.
Was it?
Like a bang average track.
You know what? I'm gonna read you my list.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna read you my list.
Go.
Can you put a close up of my facials?
Oofed.
Number 1, Silverstone. Number 2, Spa. Number 3, Suzuka. Then I had number 4, Imola. Number 5, Hungaroring. Number 6, Melbourne, and that's probably biased, but I love that track because I always do that in my championship. Number 7, Austin. Number 8, I had Montreal. Number 9, I had Bahrain. Number 10, I had Barcelona. 11, Spielberg. 12, Paul Ricard. 13, Mexico. 14, and I think that's because I love the stadium section. 14, Yas Marina. 15, Interlagos. 16, Marina Bay. 17, Monza. 18, Xanthorpe. 19.
Yeah, I get the picture. I get it.
Yeah,
All the other
so,
shitty
like,
tracks at the end.
Yeah, I feel like
bad.
it was a pretty good
Maybe
list.
we put up a graphic as well of our 3 lists
Yeah.
and see what the universe thinks about those as well. Get some
Alright.
feedback as well.
My top.
Give me your top 5.
Silverstone, Spa, Suzuka, Coda, and Interlagos.
Strong list.
And then Melbourne, Spain, Hungary, Canada, Imola, blah, blah, blah.
Not bad. I want to see what the world thinks about
What
this.
was yours? Top 5.
Suzuka, Spa, Interlagos, Hungaroring, Silverstone.
Silverstone 5th.
So Hungaroring, we all had in our top 5, I think.
No, I had it 8th.
Okay.
Hungaroring's an awesome track. It's probably not as
Yeah.
good for Formula 1 anymore, but it's an awesome track to drive. That's the thing.
I guess my metrics were the layout, but then the racing it produces, and we haven't really seen good
But the
racing
problem
at
is
Hungary for a while.
we've just raced at Hungary in our GT championship.
I
And-
understand. That's why I had Miami 22nd, mate. That's why I had
good.
Miami 22nd.
Yeah, there you go. That'll do it. All right, let's post up those graphics to the socials. That might be a good bit of fan engagement. A lot of tags I think we need in these just to get a bit of traction on them. Any other talking points from this week, boys?
This week. Well, I think you mentioned something that we're looking forward to. I don't think it's this week relative, but
Say
we
it.
probably won't speak about it next week. So there's F1 next week, isn't there?
Tell me.
Spa 24 is coming up. I would like to pre-hype it a little bit because as much as I love talking about what we're talking about, I do love, speaking the word of the Lord, and just getting people ready for these festive times ahead. And in what is it? Not this weekend, next weekend, starting from it should be Thursday, Australian time, like Australia days. We have practice starting for the Spa 24 hour. And the reason I think that the Spa 24 hour is so special, if you like tin top racing, not if you're only into open wheels, is that
but you know what? No, don't say that. Don't start with that, because even if they don't think they like it, they don't know what they don't like.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, you don't know what you don't like, all right? And we're here to tell you what you like.
That's right.
You know? As a bunch of white men, very fitting with the times, you like 65 GT3 cars running at Spa-Francorchamps. Even if you don't think you like it, that's what you like. And I think that is actually one of the greatest selling points of this race, is that you have 65 cars, all competitive in this, like in the same category. There's, albeit there is different actual categories. There's Pro-Am, and Silver Cup, and then Am. But you have 65 cars all balanced really well over a 24-hour race. And one thing I think that has different to all the other ones is that there's only one category there. And we're going to have a few Australian teams there, which I'm really looking forward to. I love Grove. Australian teams heading up to Europe. We have Grove, we have Sun Energy One Racing, Mercedes, who won the Bathurst 12-hour. We have the EMA Porsche from Porsche Cup that's running Matt Campbell, Yamane, and Felipe Nasser. Awesome lineup. But you're also going to have probably one of the best qualifying sessions to watch for free on YouTube, which is the Super Pole session, I think on the Friday evening Australia time. And it's all live and free on YouTube. I mean, it is
all one needs to say is this. Okay. We went to Bathurst, and everyone's been like, even the Bathurst 12 hours with the field that it had this year got rave reviews, right? We're going to an equally as historic and equally as epic track as Bathurst is. We've got a 24-hour race. We've got 65 cars on track. All of those cars are evenly matched. We've got 150, if not more, of some of the greatest prototype and GT drivers from around the world being there. There's probably I reckon there'd be about 15 Australians all up that are going to be there, between 10 and 15 Australians and New Zealanders. So get amongst it, get on board, give it a watch. Watch the first 2 hours, and I think what you'll find is you might watch a fair few more after that. Okay? Awesome
racing. Watch the first hour, and I think you'll watch the first few after that.
Yeah.
But you don't have to watch in the dark, because actually it's boring as batshit if you've never watched it before.
Yeah, I agree. Unless you're a fan.
Unless you like watching lights.
Yeah, I got the live timing on, but like that's how I.
But if that's because you understand what's happening, but if you don't know what's happening, it can be a bit boring.
Yeah, true. I'll give you
that. That's my plug.
Maybe we need to do a post about it. H, we got a lot of posts coming up this week. I think might just do one about the Spa 24H. Maybe just to get you excited about it. Next weekend.
Yeah.
Just to get you excited about it, Harry.
People, bro.
Yeah, maybe.
If we can hype up Harry, we can hype up anyone.
Harry, think about IndyCar.
Yeah.
Think about how long it took me.
It's totally not the same thing, but sure.
I've got homework for you, Harry. I've got homework for you. I want you to watch the first hour of the race, and you're going to report back. And you have to report to us how you felt about watching it.
Is there a mini for the first hour?
No, man. Just watch the first hour. A mini is an hour.
All right, I'm dedicated to the podcast, so I'll do it.
You know what you could do, H? Now that you've got your camera, you could post it on YouTube, a live reaction to the first hour.
I want to hear it on the pod, though.
Yeah, we'll do that.
I want to be here and hear it on the pod.
We'll do that.
He's not committing to it. All right, boys.
All right.
Is there any more to shoot?
Paul Ricciardo next week.
Yep.
Formula One. Track gives me, I don't know, those lines freak me out, but it was a good race last year.
Bad of a track.
It was a good race last year.
If Paul Ricciardo didn't have a kilometre of concrete around it and it was just like a normal track in its layout, it'd actually be a good track.
Yeah, but it does have a kilometre, so...
But you know what? I hope they police the boundaries like they did last week, because then it doesn't matter if there's a kilometre of concrete around it. You have to stay within the in the tram lines. As long as they do that, the spectacle shouldn't be tarnished. It's only when you see people running wide at every second corner and using it as runoff to overtake, that's when the sort of spectacle is tarnished.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they do it.
Because Coda has a lot of that as well, and we love Coda. Coda even has the lines with stars in there, so that's why it's a little bit better. But other than that,
we love the stars and stripes.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Well, France is just the stripes, just without the stars.
Yeah, there's just a lot of blue stripes.
What does that even mean?
I think France is red, white, and black, but it's got no stripes. It's got no stars.
Yeah, but like, what does that have to do with anything we're talking about? As in the tracks?
I was just being.
It was an observation.
You trying to be a bit of a philosopher?
Yeah.
I think it's time to end the podcast if you're trying to philosophize.
I think it is, guys. All right, I think we'll leave it there.
In waters we trust, bro.
In waters we trust.
The man. Number 6. Number 5. Number 6.
Dude, is your team
5? All right, boys, we'll leave it there.
All right.
As always, please like, subscribe, follow, share. Keep spreading the word. Keep spreading the love. Thank you so much for following the pod, and we'll see you next week with our reaction from Paul Ricard. Have a great night.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks.